it's CraftyRia and welcome to another video. If you're new here, I'm glad you found me. And if you're returning, I am glad you're back. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd love it if you did. Just click on that subscribe button down below. And while you're there, click on the bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Today I am going to be recycling a couple of Christmas cards. These were sent to me by my dear friend Janet in Ireland, and she sent me a wonderful packet of Christmas cards, and it was really hard to decide which ones to use first. So what I did is I picked ones that have writing on the inside because I know I'm going to have to cut them apart. So that's what I'm doing. And I have a really neat idea for this one here. So I'll go ahead and do a simple one and this kind of fun, different design. These cards are square, so I'm going to cut them apart and put them on a rectangle card base. The card base I'm using today is 5.5 by 4. I just trimmed a quarter of an inch off of the long side. I have envelopes that are for 5.5 by 4 cards, and I thought I would use them, and it did lend itself to these particular cards really easily. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. This is going to be pretty basic. This card is beautiful just as it is. Has this clothesline, or garland, I should say, with all of these goodies hanging off of it. And in gold, it says Merry Christmas. And on the inside, it says Happy Christmas and all best wishes for the year ahead. So very nice. I'm going to go ahead and cut the front of the card off as always. And I'm going to cut out the sentiment from the inside. I may not use this sentiment on this card. I think I'm going to use the gold Merry Christmas on the inside, but I can use this sentiment on another card. I save them in a box marked card scraps, and I have them when I need them. I also can rubber stamp a sentiment if I want, but it's so easy just to use something from a card. But I'll set that aside in case I need it. And then I'm going to cut it right above that Merry Christmas. Actually, I'm going to cut it a little bit below the Merry Christmas first, so that way it's centered on the piece that I cut out. So I have Merry Christmas, and I might as well trim that on each side. And the reason I would use this on the inside is because it matches the front. It'll have the same like wood paneling background as the front, and the gold would match. So I'd rather use that for the inside, whereas the other piece, it doesn't really matter. Let me hold this up to my card base. I do need to trim it down a little bit from top to bottom, but there is a good edge from side to side. So I'm going to trim a little bit off the top. Then kind of get an idea. I think I've got a pretty good border all the way around. I'm going to be using some of this gold paper. I got this paper from Hollow's Paper Craft. I don't remember the name of the city, but I went there. They have all kinds of beautiful, beautiful papers. So I have that. Looks really good. I'm going to trim this down to be just a little smaller than my card base, which would be 5 3/8 by 3 7/8. Oops, it slid a little bit as I was cutting. There we go. I wasn't holding it tight enough. Let's see how this looks on there. And that looks really good. And then it would fit right on there really nicely. Now what I want to do is to save some of this gold paper and also to make the card a little bit lighter. I'm going to die cut something out of the center. I happen to have my die cuts out and close by because I'm going to use it for my next card. I have these circle dies out, so I'm going to just go ahead and use one of those since I have it handy. It doesn't really matter what I cut out. I just want to cut something out of the center so I don't waste any of this pretty paper. So one of the tricks that I like to do when I'm using fancy papers is to cut something out of the middle, and then you've got it for a card or something else. And then we have that for another project, or I could put it in Happy Mail or something like that. And then I have this piece left over, which would be perfect for the card. So let me just get this out of the way. And then when I put this over it, you won't even know that there was something cut out of the center. That's a little frugal tip for you. So I'm going to go ahead and use my tape runner and just adhere this down to the card. If you're making very big cards or using very thick cardstock, this does help with the weight of the card. And if you're concerned about there being a different, height around there, you can always take something, a piece of scrap paper, and put it in the middle. Just so it doesn't, like bow down in the middle. So I'll put a couple of these scraps on there. You can also use the scrap from the back of the card. However, I threw it away. Don't tell anybody. There we go. And I love that gold and I want a little more to show. So I'm going to trim down just a little bit more so that gold shows. And I think just trimming off of that side because it wasn't even from side to side. And I might take a little bit more off of that top. And that way more of that gold will show behind it. There we go. Get more of that gold background. And I will put some tape down. Make sure the card opens the right way. There we go. And that card is very simple, very basic, very pretty. And I will call it done, except for the sentiment for the inside. And just to add a little color with this, I grabbed a piece of the red construction paper. Got this at Hollow's Paper Craft as well. I was looking for red cardstock and I could not find any really good Christmas red, but my husband found the construction paper. And I almost thought it was silly to buy the construction paper, but it was very inexpensive and it works great, and it's the perfect color. It is not like typical construction paper that you would get at Walmart, I don't think. It is gorgeous construction paper. I like it a lot. And with construction paper, I prefer to use a liquid adhesive rather than the tape. I think it adheres better. Sometimes with tape, it will pull apart the fibers on the construction paper. Whereas the adhesive, the liquid adhesive, tends to stick to it better. That's just my opinion. There we go. So that card is done. I will also set that aside. And let's go ahead and work on the second card. This is the second card, and it has silver writing and some silver snowflakes. So I have a piece of this silver paper, same place. It's not as thick as the gold, but it was from the same place. And then this card base, which has the same measurements, 5.5 by 4. So let me trim down the silver the same way I did the gold. I'm going to make it 5 3/8 by 3 7/8, which is just 1/8 of an inch on two sides, shorter than the card base. So then that leaves a 1/16 of an inch border. And I'll go ahead and adhere this down. I got some adhesive out onto the front, but that comes off pretty easily. I was a little sloppy with my adhesive there. And I'm just going to use my finger and just rub off that adhesive off of the edge of the card. All right, and I will set that aside, and I'm going to work on the card base. I'm going to go ahead and cut the front off, as always. And then the inside, the writing is very close to the sentiment, but that's okay. We're not going to need the sentiment. I actually could cut this out and make a tag out of that little one and send it with the card. There's a little bit of a crinkle along the top edge, so I'm just going to just slightly trim the top. Just take a sliver off, so that way that neatens that up quite a bit. I just want to make sure it cuts straight. There we go. And then I'm going to cut the sentiment here off the bottom, so I only have this part of the card on the top. So that leaves us with that. Let me see how that looks on this card base. And that is very good. And then that also leaves us with the sentiment. I'm going to trim this left side of it off. And I'm going to trim up the edge on the other side of the snowman. There we go. And that's what's going to be on the inside of the card. And let me look at this again. I'm going to trim just a little bit off the bottom, so we're kind of even. Okay, that is very good. And then just for a little bit of fun, I thought I would cut out this house, and that's the same die that fits. I'm going to cut out this house with this die. Same thing as the Sizzix Big Kick. I think it's the identical machine. It's just a little different color. I just want to be careful to not cut off the bottom of the card. Try to get that centered in there. I'm using a magnetic platform, which I love, but sometimes you have to be careful. If your plate you're using is warped at all, it might cause what you're sticking down to jump around a little bit. So we have that cut out, which is perfect. So I'm just going to adhere this part down very carefully. Try to get as much adhesive as I can around there. I'm going to put a few drops of glue on this very narrow edge down at the bottom here, and a few over here because I can't get my tape runner there. I'm just going to spread it with my finger because I don't want it to leak out onto the silver cardstock. Oh, before I do that, I want to put a piece of ribbon there by the ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of ribbon a little bigger than the card base. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on there, right along where that fake red ribbon is. And then I'm going to stick my pretty ribbon down on top of it. Okay, then I'm going to tie this leftover piece of ribbon into a bow by itself, just as if you were tying your shoes. I'm going to move it down a little so I don't waste so much ribbon. Just a regular shoelace bow, and then just pull your loops tight and then just adjust them. I try to keep the ribbon facing the same direction, facing one direction. That way it turns out to be kind of a flat bow. Then I want to size it up with the card. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down. All right. And see how this looks on there. That does look pretty good. I have these glue dots that I'm going to use just on the back of this bow, right on the back of the center part of the bow. And that way I'm going to stick it right down like that. And then I'll use my scissors and trim. And then if you want your little pieces to land down in one certain spot, You could put a little bit of glue there just to help hold them. And then I have my piece right there. I'm going to take some foam tape and I'm going to put it on the back. Actually, I'll just put it on here. And then I'm going to line this up right into the holes, right into the scallop where it sat originally. That way it lines up perfectly. And I'm just going to hold it down right there with my finger. And then just let it fall in there. So that way it lines up really good. So there we have that. And then I'm going to mat this to go on the inside. This piece might not be big enough. No. So I'll cut another piece. Same thing, I'm going to go ahead and use some glue. This is Elmer's Glue All, and it is in a art glitter glue container with the fine metal tip, and I just put some washi tape on there to cover up the label. I have another container of art glitter glue. Let me trim that a little more even. There we go. It was too wide on that side. I have other art glitter glue, but I wanted to give the Elmer's a try before I ran out of art glitter glue, and it works great. I absolutely love it. And then the inside of the card, because it says here, wishing you a magical Christmas and a delightful New Year, so it matches really good. I've noticed that I did not put this down very straight, so I'm going to lift it back up now that I looked at it straight, and I'm going to try this again. There we go. I had the bottom lined up, but I didn't have it lined up on the top. So that is on there a little more straight. And we have a real bow where the fake bow was. And we have that raised up a little bit with the silver background. I did not die cut the center of this because I wanted the silver to show through behind this in case it isn't lined up perfectly. I wanted to be able to see the decorative paper underneath. So I purposely did not cut that one out. Normally I would. Sometimes I don't on my videos just to make the video go faster. But normally if I was just crafting, I would definitely use up that pretty paper. Well, there you go. There are my 2 recycled Christmas cards. Thank you so much for sending me the cards, Janet. I'm looking forward to making a whole bunch more from that beautiful, beautiful envelope of cards that you sent. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't yet checked out my Facebook group, Create with CraftyRia, I would love it if you did. It's a great group of ladies over there, and we really do have a good time. And like I said, thanks for watching. I do appreciate you. And until the next video, you know what to do. Go get crafting. Bye-bye.